What's up, everybody? Welcome to the latest episode of my rock review. I'm about to review today is Nine Inch Nails' The Downward Spiral, released in 1994 on Nothing under Interscope Records. This is actually sorry about that. This is actually the second studio album, well, the third official release. I'll get into that later. Um, Nine Inch Nails producers include, of course, Trent Reznor and Flood. Singles are March of the Pigs and Closer. Alright, so I would tell you the members of the group, but I'm going to get more into that later on. Now, for those of you who don't know who Nine Inch Nails, or if you guys want to be technical, Trent Reznor is, it's like a group, a band. It's like, okay, to put it bluntly, it's like a one-man band, basically, because Trent Reznor, I'm sorry, basically does everything. He hires the musicians and shit like that. So that's why each album, the lineup is kind of like changes a little bit and stuff like that. So just to throw that out there. But for those of you guys who don't know who he is, he's like a rock musician, frontman, producer. He got his start in 1987. He was playing keyboard for this band called the Exotic Birds, and at the night he was doing a janitor. He was working as like a janitor and shit like that. And so he asked he was actually assistant engineer and then janitor. So he asked the studio owner, who was cleaning Bart Costa, if he can record like a demo and shit like that. He agreed. He recorded the demo, and then next thing you know, it got like a lot of heavy feedback and everything like that. And to be honest, he was actually inspired by Prince because he played all the instruments himself, except for the drums and shit like that. So fast forward to 1988, he got more exposure and he signed with TVT Records. Now, TVT Records, it was like a small European label and shit like that. And by that time, between Dan and 89, he worked on his first album, The Pretty Hate Machine. That was a very dope album. When I first heard it, I have to admit, I was kind of like, it's okay. Because, like, I heard this album first, so I thought it would kind of like be like a precursor to this album, but never judge a book by its cover, you know what I'm saying? So that got them like a tour and everything, and it got them, by the time like the early 90s came around, Nine Inch Nails were in Lollapalooza and everything like that. But Trent was having problems with his label because his label wanted to make like a Pretty Hate Machine 2, but he didn't like to be labeled as like a synth pop band. So he left TVT. He formed his own label called Nothing under Interscope Records. And 1992, he relocated to like the site of the Tate murders. And if you guys don't know your history with Charles Manson, that same house he recorded the album, like this album and the EP Broken, which I'm going to mention in a minute, that was the same house that Charles Manson killed Sharon Tate, her unborn child, and shit like that. So just a little feedback, because I guess he wanted like the atmosphere for this album to be dark or some shit. So yeah, it is what it is. So fast forward to 1992, he dropped actually 2 EPs. He dropped Broken and he dropped Fixed. I heard a little bit of both of them. I haven't like really heard the full thing yet, so from what I've heard, it's very good, of course. And so that's when 1994 came out. He dropped this album, The Downward Spiral. Now, the band members in this album are, of course, Trent's on vocals, Mark Flood Ellis, who's like a very close collaborator with Nine Inch Nails or Trent or whatever. He produced. He's a producer. He did the synthesizer of The Becoming. He did a hi-hat for Closer. Chris Vrenna, he did the drums for Hurt. Additional drums on Burn. Adrian Belew, he was mostly doing his guitar work. Danny Lohner, of course, guitar work on Big Man with a Gun. Andy Zuski, drums on The Downward Spiral. Stephen Perkins, drum loops on I Do Not Want This. Charles Clouser, program continuity. Yeah. Now, this album was heavily influenced by David Bowie's The Low and Pink Floyd's The Wall. I guess like because it was influenced by those albums, because like this whole production, the lyrical content, especially in The Wall, played a huge part with this album and shit like that. And you guys should know, if you guys rock heads, you guys should know that Trent basically paid homage to David Bowie all throughout his career and shit like that. So, but despite like the critical acclaim that this album received, it was heavily criticized, for its lyrical content and shit like that, with religion and stuff. Because you gotta understand it. This was under Interscope Records, and Interscope Records were basically, how can I put this? Everyone's favorite punching bag back in the 90s, because you had Death Row Records, and of course, Tupac was signed to Interscope, of course, and give me one second, I'm sorry. Sorry about that. But yeah, that's how I see it. And in case you're listening, the song I'm playing in the background is called Piggy. So yeah, Interscope Records, and a lot of people actually consider this album their like breakthrough album and stuff like that. So yeah. Now I talked about the production, all that. Now let me talk about the actual concept of this whole album itself. He called this the Downward Spiral because I guess Trent was feeling like a lot of negative vibes, and he was going through like substance abuse, like drugs and alcohol. So he kind of wrote an album about like this character who goes through this downward spiral by letting people control his head and shit like that. This is just a paraphrase, because I'm not going to reveal every damn thing with this whole album. So yeah, just people fucking with his head and shit. This is the booklet. Yes, it's lyrics all over the booklet and shit. We got pictures of this. Alright, so I talked about everything. Let's talk about the music, which I've been waiting so hard to talk about. And another thing too, I apologize for the little delay in certain reviews and albums. I just been so caught up with life and shit, so yeah. 14 songs, you guys know what I'm about to do. So track number 1, Mr. Self-Destruct. Pretty dope song. It basically sets the whole tone of the whole album and shit like that. What I got from Mr. Self-Destruct, it just gives you like fully insight what the protagonist is going through and shit like that. How he's controlled by the voices in his head, and he's fighting over his addictions, feelings, and guilt and fear, which kind of like is based off Trent Reznor's character, his real life persona and shit. So that's basically the only way to describe it. Next we have Piggy, which this song is actually notable for 2 things. One, it was notable because it was Reznor's only live drumming performance. 2, first Nine Inch Nails song to use the line "Nothing Can Stop Me Now," which concludes the track. And if you guys hear this album, then you say this line a lot of times and shit like that. Reason why he called this song Piggy, because the studio name when he was recording it, it alludes to the name like Pig and shit like that. And Pig was written with Tate's blood on the front door by the murderers and shit. So yeah. And it was inspired by a poem that Reza had written. Very good song. I love the beat to that. It's like that very dark, lo-fi kind of beat. You know what I'm saying? So then we get to Heresy. Heresy. What can I say about the song? This song very controversial. He's basically criticizing Christianity and how it's used to control and contradict people. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, so very interesting song right here. It's playing in the background if you can hear it. The beat is nuts, like very nuts and shit. Track number 4, March of the Pigs. My favorite song off this album, bar none. First, like, this song was just like, once you hear that them drums and shit, you know, that fast-paced drum, and then next thing you know, Trent's just going crazy on the vocals and shit, and then the way the song was mixed, like, whew. And please don't get me started on that music video, because that was like one of the most stripped down like music videos I've ever seen and shit, like very ahead of its time basically. Next song, the song basically talks about all the fake people he comes near, which hence the title March of the Pigs and shit. So next we have Closer, probably the most controversial song of this album, bar none, of course. This is actually the first song I've actually heard from Nine Inch Nails. Okay, so Closer. Now, let me just say this once and for all. This is not, Trent did not make this a sex song. He did not. Just because the lyrics said, "I want to fuck you like an animal." That's that line right there. Oh my God, okay. Basically, what I got from him, I looked up the meaning and he said it was talking about safe hatred, obsession. So, when I think about obsession, when it comes to sex, I think about lust. So, yeah. But, like, that's how people always get the meaning of their song, especially myself, kind of mixed up. Because I was like, I want to fuck you like an animal. What the fuck? And then the video was kind of controversial, very controversial, because it had, like, very weird imagery. It had, like, the cross burning, if I'm not mistaken. Like, whew, you can't really do stuff like that now because, you know, everyone's now either trying to copy everyone else, scared to be creative. Like, you can't do an album like this today. You could. People tried, but it ended up being, like, watered down. So, hate to say it. Track number 6, The Ruiner. That song was okay and shit like that. Very okay. Yeah, very okay song. And I think when he talks about the Ruiner, I believe he's talking about another word for God himself. I think. I could be wrong on that, because I always get the concept of the song kind of mixed up, you know, but yeah. Track number 7, The Becoming. Now this is the turning point of the album and the protagonist, because it talks about he's transforming himself into a man to the machine, how he's letting everyone tell him how to run his life and shit like that. And he can't feel shit now, so I feel like also Trent actually put like his drug abuse there, because it kind of leads into, wait, hold up. I talked about the Ruiner, The Becoming, yeah. It kind of leads into like the second half of the whole album. Now, some of these lyrics too. Just listen to it. I beat my machine. It's part of me. It's inside of me. I'm stuck in this dream. It's changing me. I'm becoming the me that you know. He had some second thoughts. He's covered with scabs. He's broken. He is broken and sore. The me that you know. He doesn't come around much. That much of me isn't here anymore. Like that. Then it leads into this. All pain disappears. It's the nature of my security. Yeah, whatever. Drowns out of all I hear. No escape from this. My new consciousness. To me, the me that you know he used to have feeling. But the blood has stopped pumping and it's left to decay. The me that you know is now made up of wires. And even when I'm right with you, I'm so far away. Like, that's actually some really deep shit right there and shit. So, yeah. Let me get my drink. Might need that. Alright. So, we talked about the becoming. Okay. Next song, I Do Not Want This. It's self-explanatory. He doesn't want the machine to take over him. He wants to feel like a human being again. He wants to do things like regular humans do. Love the mixing on that song too. Very dope. Track number 9, Big Man with the Gun. I guess this song has like a lot of meanings and shit. And so I think either he's talking about people who are overconfident, but I've also heard people say that it was kind of like making fun of gangster rap at the time. So yeah. But other than that, very cool song. Track number 10, A Warm Place, which is like an interlude. Kind of like a smoother track, you know. And it's kind of like a very powerful and poignant song because it's talking about how his human side is trying to break through but for a moment. And the only reason why he's only there for a moment because the machine made the motherfucker insane and some shit like that. So there's no way to get through to his head because he's so damn hard-headed and shit, you know. Track number 11, The Eraser. Wow. That's the majority of the song is basically like a build-up with a drum loop and synthesizer patches. And the protagonist finally realizes the mistakes, the damage that he's made and shit. So, Wet Reptile is the next song. Another underrated favorite song I like. He's talking about this girl that's fucking with his head and shit. But if you really decode the lyrics carefully, he's talking about drugs and shit. Like, I'm gonna pull some lyrics up right now, cause I'm gonna pull some lyrics up right now. Give me 1 second. Let me find this. Ooh. She spreads herself wide open to let the insects in. She leaves a trail of honey to show me where she's been. She has the blood of a reptile just underneath her skin. Seeds from 1,000 others drip down from within. Like, and then it gets to some shit like this. Oh, my beautiful liar, oh, my precious whore, my disease, my infection, I'm so impure. Like, I guess because, like, he's kind of saying that he believes the drugs will make him better and shit like that. Like all people who take drugs. But once you take them, you start feeling like you don't know what you're feeling anymore and shit like that. So my disease, my infection, his disease is his addiction. Which kind of goes back into what Closer was when he's talking about lust and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? I felt that was kind of a genius song. Very dope song right there. Next to March of the Pigs, I would have to say that's my favorite song next to that. Took me a while really just to... Okay. Then we have Downward Spiral. he's talking about like suicide on this song. Like he's contemplating suicide because he feel like he can't like get out of his personal hell and shit. Very dope song. It's a very sad song indeed. The last song is Hurt. It's actually got a Grammy Award nomination for Best Rock Song in '96, but it lost to Alanis Morissette's You Ought to Know. But yeah, this song, he kind of regrets everything he done in his life, and we should use life wisely and shit like that. How we should like be positive about our life. Okay, this is actually Trent Reznor's favorite song he's actually written, but the song kind of gets overshadowed because of, excuse me, because of course everyone knows what's his name, Johnny Cash's version of the song, which was released like 9 years after this one. Don't get me wrong, I love Johnny Cash's version, and I love how he approached that version. But when it comes to like feeling regretful and shit, no, hold on, let me rephrase that. You know what? I was gonna say some shit, but I kind of lost what I was gonna say. I was really gonna say like I like 9 Inch Nails' verse because like it was more darker, while Johnny Cash's version was like a more tragic tale of the song, which I applaud both musicians how they handled that song. So, and it's go figure. I've read somewhere that Trent Reznor gave the rights to that song to Johnny Cash and his like family and shit. So I kind of felt that was kind of nice and a sign of respect, because he thought that was like, he didn't expect his song to be taken like that. Yeah, rest in peace to Johnny Cash, by the way. And that's all songs of this album. Excuse me. Ooh. My verdict of this album, my personal opinion, very dope album. Classic album. This album was released at a time when grunge was taking over and shit like that. Now, this album kind of spoke to like a lot of the generation and shit like that, you know. And let me just say, like, the production, very influential production at the time, you know. Just the overpowering instruments and shit. You will never see an album like this ever again. I hate to break it to y'all, because it was just talking about, like, if I'm going crazy, questioning people's sanity and shit like that. Like, I never, like, really... It was just questioning people's sanity. Everything about this whole album was sick. And, yeah. And what else to say about this album I haven't said before? Oh, I forgot. This is actually... They actually re-released this album a couple of times. I think the last re-release they've done, if I'm not mistaken, was 2014. I could be wrong, but yeah, I could be wrong. But yeah, this album, there's no reason. If you're a 9 Inch Nails fan and you don't have this album, I don't know what to tell you. But yeah, that's all the time I have. Stay tuned for more. Peace.